Have you ever defended a belief you secretly knew was wrong? Not a stranger. You. And you didn't even realize you were doing it. Your mind does this hundreds of times a day. It tears itself apart internally to protect you from the discomfort of being wrong. And this mechanism, discovered in the 1950s, is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. Cognitive dissonance. The psychological discomfort of holding two contradictory beliefs at the same time. It drives your decisions, your politics, your relationships, and your sense of identity. Most people have never heard its name.
This is the story of how your brain protects lies, why facts can make beliefs stronger, and what it takes to actually change your mind. It begins with a man who infiltrated a doomsday cult in the 1950s.
The year was 1954. A young social psychologist named Leon Festinger stumbled upon a newspaper headline that would change psychology forever. A cult in Michigan believed the world was about to end.
Act 1. The prophecy that failed. How a failed doomsday prediction revealed the engine of self-deception.
Leon Festinger was a professor at the University of Minnesota. He had already made a name for himself studying group dynamics and social pressure. But something bothered him about how people maintained beliefs in the face of contradictory evidence. His question was deceptively simple: when reality contradicts a deeply held belief, what happens? Common sense says people abandon the belief. Festinger suspected the opposite. He believed the mind would find a way to bend reality instead. Then he found it. A small article in a local newspaper. A woman named Dorothy Martin, a housewife from Oak Park, Illinois, claimed to be receiving messages from extraterrestrial beings. The messages were clear: a great flood would destroy the world on December 21st. Martin had attracted a small following. They called themselves the Seekers. They were ordinary people, doctors, housewives, students, business owners. But they had done something extraordinary. Many had quit their jobs. Some had left their spouses. They had given up everything for this prophecy. One member, a doctor, had closed his medical practice. Another had sold her house and given the money to the group. A third had abandoned his family. The investments were total. Financial, social, personal. Everything was on the line. Festinger saw a natural experiment unfolding. He formulated his hypothesis: when the prophecy fails, the believers will not abandon their faith. Instead, they will double down. They will proselytize more fervently than before. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the need to justify it.
Festinger and his team did something extraordinary. They didn't just observe from a distance. They infiltrated the group. They attended meetings, pretended to be believers, and documented everything. They became participants in a doomsday cult to study it from the inside.
The meetings were electric. Dorothy Martin channeled messages from beings called the Guardians. The messages were precise: at midnight on December 21st, a flood would cover the earth. But the true believers would be rescued by flying saucers at a specific time and location. As December 21st approached, the group's behavior intensified. They removed all metal from their clothing, as the Guardians had instructed. They waited at the appointed location, a house in Michigan, for the saucers that would save them. Festinger watched and took notes. Midnight came. Nothing happened. The believers waited. 1 o'clock. Still nothing. 2 o'clock. The room was silent. The expectation had been so total, so absolute, that the silence was deafening. Some members began to cry. By 3 in the morning, the mood had shifted from anticipation to devastation. The flood had not come. The saucers had not come. Everything they had sacrificed for, everything they had believed, was wrong. The prophecy had failed completely. This was the critical moment. Common sense says the cult should dissolve. The believers should admit they were wrong, go home, and rebuild their lives. But Festinger had predicted something different. something that defied all intuition.
At 4:30 in the morning, Dorothy Martin received a new message. The Guardians, she said, had been so impressed by the group's faith that they had decided to spare the Earth. The believers' devotion had literally saved the world.
And then something astonishing happened. The very people who had been the most devastated became the most enthusiastic evangelists. They called newspapers. They held press conferences. They desperately tried to convince outsiders that the world had indeed been saved by their faith. The members who had invested the least, the ones who had attended a few meetings but kept their jobs and families, they quietly drifted away. They admitted it was foolish and moved on. But the ones who had sacrificed everything, they became the most fervent believers. This was Festinger's insight, and it was profound. The people who had given up the most had the most to lose by admitting they were wrong. The psychological cost of admitting the truth was greater than the cost of maintaining the lie. So they chose the lie. He called this cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when your actions and your beliefs don't align. And he identified the three main ways the mind resolves this discomfort: changing the belief, changing the behavior, or adding a new belief to bridge the gap. Most people assume we choose the first path, we change our beliefs to match reality. But Festinger's research showed something far more disturbing. We almost always choose the third path. We don't change our minds. We don't change our behavior. We invent new justifications. In 1957, Festinger published his findings in a book that would become one of the most influential in psychology. When Prophecy Fails documented not just the cult, but the universal principle behind it. The response was immediate and enormous. Researchers around the world began testing the theory. Over the following decades, hundreds of experiments confirmed Festinger's theory across cultures, ages, and contexts. The effect was robust, reliable, and universal. Cognitive dissonance was not a quirk of cult members. It was a fundamental property of the human mind. Every major psychology textbook added a chapter.
The Doomsday cult was not an anomaly. It was a magnified version of something that happens in every human mind, every day. The cult members were not crazy. They were human. And the mechanism that drove them drives all of us. Act 2. The Universal Mechanism. How cognitive dissonance operates in your daily life, right now, without your awareness.
Cognitive dissonance is the psychological discomfort experienced when holding two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes simultaneously. First formally identified by Festinger in 1957, it is one of the most thoroughly documented phenomena in social psychology. Consider the smoker. He knows that cigarettes cause cancer. He has read the studies. He has seen the warnings on every pack. And yet he continues to smoke. This creates dissonance. I am a rational person, and I am doing something I know will kill me. How does the smoker resolve this? He doesn't quit. Instead, he adopts new beliefs that bridge the gap. My grandfather smoked until he was 90. The studies are exaggerated. Stress is worse than smoking anyway. I'll quit next year. Each new belief reduces the discomfort without requiring behavior change. The most powerful rationalization is one the smoker may not even be conscious of, the belief that the damage hasn't started yet, that there's still time. This is the essence of dissonance reduction. The mind creates an illusion of safety to avoid the pain of truth. Now consider the voter. She voted for a candidate who promised to lower taxes and improve healthcare. A year later, taxes have risen and healthcare has gotten worse. The evidence is clear: her candidate lied or failed. Does she admit she made a mistake? Rarely. Instead, she argues that the previous administration made it impossible to deliver on promises. That the media is biased. That the opposition would have been worse. That the long-term strategy will pay off. The dissonance is resolved not by changing her evaluation, but by adding justifications. After buying something expensive, a car, a house, a phone, you immediately feel a pang of regret. Did I make the right choice? Could I have gotten a better deal? This is post-purchase dissonance, and marketers exploit it ruthlessly. This is why companies send you follow-up emails after a purchase, congratulating you on your excellent choice. This is why Apple users argue that Android is inferior, and why the argument feels personal. Your identity has become entangled with your purchase. Admitting the product is flawed feels like admitting a part of you is flawed. Effort justification is one of the most powerful forms of dissonance. When you work hard for something, you value it more. Not because it's actually more valuable, but because your brain needs to justify the effort. A fraternity initiation that involves humiliation creates loyalty, not despite the suffering, but because of it. In one of Festinger's most famous experiments, Aronson and Mills in 1959 found that people who underwent a severe initiation to join a discussion group rated the group discussion as far more interesting than those who had an easy initiation. The pain of joining created the need to believe the group was worth it. When you choose between two attractive options, you immediately devalue the one you didn't choose and inflate the one you did. This isn't rational evaluation. It's dissonance reduction. If I chose A over B, then A must be better. Otherwise, I made a mistake. And I don't make mistakes. Festinger called this the spreading of alternatives. After the decision, the gap between the options grows in your mind. The chosen option gets better and better. The rejected option gets worse and worse. This happens automatically, unconsciously, and it happens to everyone. Here is what makes cognitive dissonance so dangerous: it operates below conscious awareness. You don't feel yourself rationalizing. You don't experience the moment of choosing the lie over the truth. It happens automatically, and the output feels like genuine, honest reasoning. Every person believes they are rational. Every person believes their beliefs are based on evidence. But cognitive dissonance reveals that our rationality is largely a post hoc construction. We feel first, decide intuitively, and then build rational frameworks to justify what we already believe. The brain does not prioritize truth. It prioritizes coherence. Internal consistency. A belief system that hangs together logically, even if it's built on false premises, feels more comfortable than a fragmented set of accurate but contradictory facts. Consider the health believer who invests in alternative medicine. They spend thousands, follow strict regimens, and tell everyone about it. When a study shows their treatment is ineffective, the dissonance is enormous. They have invested money, time, social credibility, and hope. The typical response is not to stop. It is to distrust the study. In relationships, cognitive dissonance explains why people stay in toxic situations. You have invested years, shared a home, built a life together. Admitting the relationship is destructive means admitting those years were wasted. So you reinterpret. He is stressed. She is going through a phase. It will get better. The investment justifies the denial. Groupthink amplifies dissonance at scale. When an entire group shares a false belief, leaving that belief means leaving the group. The social cost compounds the psychological cost. This is why organizations make catastrophic decisions that every individual in the room privately knows are wrong. The group's collective dissonance protects the collective delusion.
Cognitive dissonance is not a flaw. It is a feature. A mind that constantly questions every belief would be paralyzed. The mechanism exists to protect our sense of identity and maintain mental stability. But in the modern world, this protective system has become a vulnerability. Act 3. The Digital Age. How algorithms weaponize cognitive dissonance against you.
In the digital age, cognitive dissonance has been industrialized. Social media platforms and AI recommendation algorithms don't just exploit dissonance. They engineer it. They create environments where leaving a belief system becomes psychologically unbearable. When you engage with a piece of content, the algorithm takes note. A video about a conspiracy theory. A post about a political candidate. A product review. The algorithm then shows you more of the same. Not because it's true, but because you engaged with it. Engagement is the only metric that matters. Each piece of confirming content strengthens the belief. Each reinforcement makes the next piece of disconfirming evidence more painful. And because the algorithm protects you from disconfirming evidence, the belief becomes stronger and stronger in a closed loop of confirmation. You and your neighbor may live on the same street, but you live in different information universes. Your newsfeed confirms your beliefs. Theirs confirms theirs. Neither of you encounters the other's evidence. The filter bubble is not a side effect of technology. It is its most profitable feature. Here is where dissonance becomes a trap. To leave a belief system you've invested in, you must admit that you were wrong. Not just about one thing, but about months or years of engagement, sharing, arguing, and identifying with that belief. The psychological cost of exiting is enormous. Online, your beliefs become your identity. You don't just hold an opinion about politics or health or science. You are someone who holds that opinion. Changing your mind means changing who you are. And the human brain resists identity change more fiercely than almost anything else. And then there is the backfire effect, the most counterintuitive finding in dissonance research. When you present someone with facts that contradict their beliefs, those beliefs often become stronger, not weaker. The dissonance created by the contradiction is resolved by rejecting the facts, not the belief. This is why fact-checking often fails. This is why debunking misinformation can actually spread it further. When you tell someone they're wrong, you trigger dissonance, and the most common dissonance reduction strategy is to reject the source of the contradiction. You become the enemy. The facts become ammunition for the other side. Social media companies have built empires on this vulnerability. The algorithm optimizes for engagement. Outrage, tribalism, and confirmation generate more engagement than nuance, doubt, or complexity. The system doesn't care what's true. It cares what keeps you scrolling. We are living in an attention economy, and cognitive dissonance is the most reliable tool for capturing attention. Anger, fear, and tribal loyalty are the most engaging emotions. Platforms have learned to trigger dissonance and then offer the comfort of confirmation as the cure. But the cure is the disease. Once you're inside a confirmation cascade, the dissonance cost of leaving grows exponentially with every piece of content you consume. After 100 confirming videos, the 101st piece of contradictory evidence is not just wrong, it's threatening. It threatens your entire worldview, your social network, and your sense of self. The Doomsday cult of the 1950s has been replicated a million times over online. QAnon, anti-vaccine movements, flat earth communities, political extremism. The structure is identical: a community, a shared belief, investment of identity, and the algorithm serving as the modern Dorothy Martin, constantly providing new messages to resolve the dissonance. The scale is unprecedented. Billions of people, each in their own optimized dissonance loop, each protected from contradiction by algorithms that profit from their certainty. This is not a bug in the system. It is the system. So what is the antidote? If presenting facts makes beliefs stronger, and if the algorithm protects us from contradiction, how do we escape? The answer is not more information. It is a specific skill: dissonance tolerance. The capacity to sit with the discomfort of contradiction without rushing to resolve it. This means deliberately exposing yourself to ideas that challenge your beliefs. Not to argue with them, but to let them sit. To feel the discomfort without immediately reaching for a rationalization. To say, this might be true, and I'm going to stay with that feeling for a moment instead of running from it.
This is the defining intellectual skill of the modern era. Not intelligence, not education, not access to information. The ability to tolerate the tearing of your own mind without patching it with convenient lies. This skill can be practiced. It can be taught. And it may be the only thing standing between us and a future where truth becomes optional.
The practice is simple but difficult. When you encounter information that contradicts your beliefs, notice the urge to dismiss it. Label it, This is dissonance. Then instead of reaching for a rationalization, write down the contradictory evidence. Sit with it for 5 minutes. You don't have to change your mind. Just refuse to change the evidence to fit your mind.
If an entire society cannot tolerate dissonance, that society cannot correct its errors. Democracy, science, justice, all of these systems depend on the ability to change course when evidence demands it. A population trapped in dissonance loops is a population that cannot govern itself effectively. The stakes are not individual. They are civilizational. Cognitive dissonance is not a flaw in human reasoning. It is a feature of a mind designed for coherence rather than accuracy. The brain prioritizes internal consistency over truth. Understanding this is the first step toward true intellectual honesty.
The only reliable antidote is not more information. It is a deliberate practice of sitting with discomfort, of tolerating the internal tearing without rushing to repair it. When you feel the urge to defend a belief, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeking truth, or am I seeking comfort?
Next, the halo effect. Why we assume beautiful people are good, intelligent, and trustworthy. How a single positive trait bleeds into every judgment we make about a person. And why this cognitive shortcut governs everything from job interviews to criminal justice.
Archetypes unbound. Cognitive dissonance.